And ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to the very exciting the weekend edition of Australian Indian Radio's live streaming, coming to you all the way from Brisbane. Brisbane at the moment, 23 degrees and partly sunny. Well, last night there was a big storm and it came at the right time when all the party goers and everyone were getting ready to go to the booked restaurants and outdoor settings, and everything sort of got washed out. There were few river cruises which did take place because normally, as we know, the ferries are out of action. There's still a lot of debris in the river, so river is generally and mainly closed, but few cruises did take place. Well, right now let's get on with the news, because we know at 10 a.m. we have that very, very special interview with Akash Lodhia. We'll be talking about the upcoming event where Pankaj Udasji is coming all the way to the Sydney Opera House. So that is going to be a once-in-a-lifetime show. And I know now with the borders open, many people from Brisbane will take that opportunity to go to the Sydney Opera House and watch that beautiful show. Well, right now, let's move on with the news for today. First of all, let's take a look at the all top stories for today in a nutshell.
Hello, Michael Tetlow with the headlines on ABC News. Ukraine's military says it started hitting high-value Russian targets, including this Russian landing ship and two other vessels in an occupied port. Australian officials want to kill off a push by China to establish a military base in the Solomon Islands close to the Queensland coast. The Morrison government is warning an authoritarian regime should have no security role in the Pacific. North Korea has tested a new type of missile capable of hitting multiple targets anywhere on Earth. It reached an altitude of 6,000 kilometres, travelling through space before crashing in waters off Japan. Australian journalist Cheng Lei, who's been detained in China for more than 19 months, will be put on trial next week on state secrets charges. The former television anchor is facing accusations of providing intelligence to foreigners or foreign organisations. A 4-year-old girl's been found alive in bushland in southern Tasmania after going missing for more than 48 hours. Shayla Phillips was found about a kilometre away from her family home. And Australia has secured a 1-0 series win against Pakistan after winning the third test in Lahore by 115 runs. Those are the headlines from ABC News. Bye for now.
So there you go. Those are the headlines there on this 26th day of March. And hey, today will be also the celebration of Bangladesh Independence Day at King George Square from 4 p.m. And tonight is Councillor Kim Mark's 10th anniversary dinner at Michael's. And good to see lots of things happening. And yesterday was the launch of Australia-India Chamber of Commerce at the Inchcombe Hotel, which is an old landmark of Brisbane. Many people yesterday commented they had never seen that venue. They had never been to that hotel, and it's been there all this while. It's a very iconic old building and a beautiful setting, and I love that old style hotel. So, wonderful to see that launch. So Sankar Mahadevan and the team, and of course the national team headed by Harish and Chris Muni as the chair. Wonderful the event yesterday that did take place, and so that's a lot happening today. It's just a full-on day, but don't forget that at 10 a.m. we will have Akash Lodhia joining us in this studio here. And then tomorrow is the Music Junction. And this month, you are in for a treat. We've come through the rehearsals and everything. Ushaji is doing some beautiful numbers. She's really put a lot of effort into that. You have to see it. And it is a fitting tribute to the one and only Lataji by the Brisbane's own Nightingale, Usha Sivikula, and presented by the ever-popular presenter, Ajay Savi. So tomorrow at 6 p.m., that goes to air live from this studios. Well, right, let's move on with the news. As we have seen from the headlines, that the young girl has been rescued. What a good news.
I'm pleased to advise that shortly before 4 p.m. today we located Shayla Phillips in bushland approximately 1 kilometre from this scene. She's being assessed by ambulance paramedics at the moment, but she was located safe. She was located by a State Emergency Service ground party. The area in which she was found was heavily wooded and very slopey. She was located by that ground party and we were notified immediately. The first thing that we did was we reacquainted her with her mother, and she's been taken by ambulance just for an assessment at this point in time.
And what did that reunion look like from what you've heard?
It was obviously very emotional. I spoke when I passed the happy news on to Mum. She was very grateful and she was very keen. I said take a few minutes to have a quick shower. She didn't care. She just wanted to get in the car and see her daughter.
I guess how amazing is this? You've poured so many resources in and also got extra resources overnight. This was the outcome you wanted?
Exactly. We've said all along this was a search and rescue operation. There was nothing to indicate at that time that anything untoward had happened. We knew that if we just kept pressing away we would find her. It was an effort of perseverance, but you know, the community also helped us, the State Emergency Service volunteers, the police, just everyone, no one wavered in their resolve to find Shayla safe.
What a good news there. You know, when we do come together, and we can do it in that very friendly Australian manner. Everyone just gets behind and does their bit. It was a search and rescue effort, and they had nothing else to believe, and so just went on with the job and did the job, and what a happy ending. Well, right now we're looking at the COVID-19 situation, and of course devastating news everywhere. Even the youngsters are getting it these days now. And as ATAGI recommends the 4th dose. Here's that news.
From vaccine importer to exporter, Australia's need to buy overseas-made vaccines could soon be a thing of the past, with 2 homemade jabs set to begin clinical trials within months.
This is big for you guys.
It is, it's huge. Yeah. Am I getting too enthusiastic?
More than 100 healthy adults who've been triple dosed are being sought to take part in the trials in Melbourne to ensure the future health of the nation.
If it's not coronavirus, it might be another virus in the future.
The new vaccines work by targeting the tip of the virus spike protein, the so-called hand at the end of the arm that reaches out to infect healthy cells. The 2 shots take a different approach, but have the same aim, kick-starting the body's immune system.
We shouldn't just be bystanders here and watch what's happening elsewhere in the world. We need to make our own scientific contribution.
If trials are successful, it could help make Australia a vaccine manufacturing hub.
So when Fiji needed vaccines, who did they call? Australia.
With just over 2/3 of eligible Australians having received a booster, the Commonwealth Advisory Group has now recommended a 4th COVID vaccine dose for the 5 million Australians most at risk.
These are adults 65 years and over, Indigenous Australians 50 years and over, aged care and disability residents, people aged 16 years and older who are severely immunocompromised.
There's no word if that advice will be extended to the rest of the population, but the government is hoping a once-a-year shot could soon be a reality.
And our planning is to be able to provide a whole-of-population annual booster.
As the pandemic continues, the Health Minister's emergency powers aren't. Biosecurity provisions will lapse next month, which includes testing requirements for international travellers coming to Australia. Andrea Niehoff, ABC News, Melbourne.
As the restrictions ease, so do the powers, the emergency powers of the health department there as well. Well, we know that the Omicron virus or the COVID-19 is not gone anywhere. It's still out there in the community, and we always hear of so many cases that's emerging, and these days also in the youngsters as well, who were supposed to be vulnerable. But right now, it is a reality, and we will have to learn to live with it. Now the annual dose has become a reality, as was mentioned by Greg and there as well, that it will now become a usual thing. Once a year you get your jab and off you go. Same as we do with our flu shots, especially coming into the winter months as well. Well, of course we have the battle of the states, and we have the state of origin, We so much like that. And of course, we Aussies love our beer. But, Brisbane ones, people like to have the Brisbane beer. Melbourne guys want the Melbourne beer. But some were always led to believe otherwise, as per this report.
Now, in the next few weeks, executives from the new Courage Brewers are going to try out their brand of beer on the hardened connoisseurs of Melbourne drinking. We're interested to know if, in fact, the average drinker could tell whether another beer has been introduced to his bar. And to try this out here, I've asked a few people to join me.
That's no good. Melbourne beer is the best beer in the world. I mean it, sincerely. And I've had beer all around the world.
And you can taste your own Melbourne beer, can you?
Yes.
What if I told you that was Sydney beer?
I wouldn't believe you.
Wouldn't you?
No.
As a beer tasting man from ABAC, what's your description of that beer?
Well, I'd say it tastes like Sydney beer to me. Pretty much like Miller's. It is very nice, something similar, very similar to Miller's beer. Could be cold. It is. Could be cold, yeah.
Very good. Let's have some more. Have some more.
Ice cold glass. That's Melbourne beer. That is definitely Melbourne beer. I'm a connoisseur of it. It's nice beer.
I think most of the Melbourne drinkers like bitter beer. That's why we've got good beer in Melbourne, and this is a Melbourne beer.
Well, what would you say if I told you that was actually Miller's beer from Sydney?
I've drank Miller's beer. As a matter of fact, I know Mr. Miller.
Well, you just drank some of Mr. Miller's beer.
Did I? Well, that wouldn't surprise me one bit because it's a good beer.
But you just told me it was a good Melbourne bitter beer.
Well, Miller's are the only people in Sydney that make good beer, in my opinion.
So Miller's are the only people in Sydney who make good Melbourne beer?
That's right. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
So there you go, a wonderful retro focus on the beer, and it was good to see that. It's good to see that many people there could identify the beer, but some of the really staunch ones were taken by surprise as well. A very good exercise in checking out the beer as well. Well, right now we will go to some overseas news, and first of all, a drive-by footage of the damage done in Mariupol in Ukraine. This is some scenes there could be shocking to people.
Некоторые дороги выглядят вообще вот так. Нам приходится проезжать вот таким вот чудесным способом.
Just look at the extent of the damage there.
Это улица Почтовая, да? Это Куприна улица? Еще Куприна, да. Тут сквозные дома.
Devastating scenes there, and so looking at all of that, let's take a look at what's going to happen in this situation and what is NATO's response to that.
A unified Western alliance has reaffirmed its commitment to defending Ukraine, warning Russia it will respond to any nuclear or chemical threat. The rare show of unity took place at an emergency meeting of NATO with new commitments made over military aid and tighter sanctions. A month into the invasion, Ukraine's military says it's begun hitting high-value Russian targets, including this landing ship and 2 other vessels in an occupied port. We have reporters across the continent, the latest from on the ground in Ukraine shortly, but we begin in Brussels tonight with our correspondent Steve Kinane.
The most powerful leaders of the world's most powerful alliance. All smiles and handshakes, gathering for a summit aimed at ending a devastating war. These leaders soon heard from the president who was not in the room. beamed in instead from a war zone.
The Ukrainian army has been resisting under unequal conditions. I have been repeating the same thing for a month now. To save people and our cities, Ukraine needs military assistance.
President Zelensky asked for 1% of NATO's tanks and planes. That idea was rejected.
I've got to tell you, logistically at the moment it looks very difficult for both with armour and with jets.
There are concerns amongst NATO leaders that Russia could be about to use chemical or biological weapons in Ukraine.
We would respond if he uses it. The nature of the response would depend on the nature of the use.
What's clear is NATO is being rapidly reshaped, and nations will need to bolster their contribution for years to come.
Putin was banking on NATO being split. Putin is getting exactly the opposite what he intended to have.
While President Biden says NATO has never been more united, these leaders face a range of crises, including war, an economic downturn, and millions of refugees heading over the border from Ukraine. Any of those crises on their own could challenge that unity.
Solving the problems of the world hasn't seemed this hard in a long time. Steve Kinane, ABC News, Brussels.
The US president is set to travel to Poland shortly to witness the refugee crisis firsthand. ABC correspondent Anne Barker is in Warsaw. Anne, what can we expect from Joe Biden's visit?
Karina, Joe Biden is still on his way from Brussels, where he was due to meet Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the European Commission, this morning. But we know his trip to Poland is largely about humanitarian aid. He did announce yesterday in Brussels $1 billion in aid for the refugee response. And given that Poland has already taken 2 million of the refugees from Ukraine, you'd expect he may announce some details of how much of that money will be spent here. We know some of it will be going towards food, medicines and water and so on. He will meet some of the refugees in temporary accommodation here in Poland. He will meet Poland's President Andrzej Duda tomorrow, I'm told, and make a key speech. And he'll also meet some of the 5,000 US troops who are based in eastern Poland near the Ukraine border before flying home to Washington.
Anne Barker reporting from Warsaw.
So, ladies and gentlemen, right now, as we know, this is Harmony Week. So what's happening in Harmony Weeks? Here is a message from the Governor General. Hello.
And it makes me optimistic about our future. In my Australia Day address, I spoke about the goodness that exists in our communities, towns and cities across the country. I called it a richness of spirit. Regardless of your cultural background or how long you've been an Australian, that richness is part of who we are. We see it in the actions undertaken each day by people and organisations, the length and breadth of this country. Linda and I are privileged in our roles to see examples of it every day. The people doing these great deeds are all different. They come from a range of backgrounds and are the product of all sorts of experiences, and that is worth celebrating. In celebrating our diversity during Harmony Week, we also have an opportunity to celebrate those who have made an outstanding contribution by nominating them for recognition through the Order of Australia. The Order of Australia is our nation's preeminent system through which to recognise achievement and service to the community. Anyone can nominate someone to be considered, and all Australians, regardless of their background or field of endeavour, are eligible. I know that there are people in your community who are deserving of a nomination. So in Harmony Week, I encourage you to nominate someone who perhaps considers themselves to be ordinary, but who you know to be extraordinary and worthy of recognition. To find out how you can nominate someone from your community, go to www.gg.gov.au. Have a happy Harmony Week.
And what a great message there, www.gg.gov.au. Well, right now, as we know that this Sunday, we have the most amazing Usa Sivakula coming and presenting the tribute to Lataji. So here's a glimpse of what we could be seeing.
कुछ ना कहो, कुछ भी ना कहो, कुछ ना कहो, कुछ भी ना कहो, क्या कहना है, क्या सुनना है, मुझको पता है, तुमको पता है, समय का ये पल थम सा गया है, और इस पल में कोई नहीं है, बस एक मैं हूँ, बस एक तुम हो, कुछ ना कहो, कुछ भी ना कहो। मेरे ख्वाब में जो आए, आके मुझे छेड़ जाए, मेरे ख्वाब में जो आए, आके मुझे छेड़ जाए, उसे कहो कभी सामने तो आए, मेरे ख्वाब में जो आए, आके मुझे छेड़ जाए, उसे कहो कभी सामने तो आए, मेरे ख्वाबों में जो आए। ओ, कांटों से खींच के ये आंचल, तोड़ के बंधन बांधे पाए, ओ, कोई न रोको दिल की उड़ान को, दिल वो चला, आज फिर जीने की तमन्ना है, आज फिर मरने का इरादा है, आज फिर जीने की तमन्ना है, आज फिर मरने का इरादा है। न रोको दिल की उड़ान को, दिल वो चला, आज फिर जीने की तमन्ना है, आज फिर मरने का इरादा है, आज फिर जीने की तमन्ना है, आज फिर मरने का इरादा है। अपनी ही बस में नहीं मैं, दिल है कहीं तो हूँ कहीं मैं, ओ, अपनी ही बस में नहीं मैं, दिल है कहीं तो हूँ कहीं मैं, ओ, जाने को बाकी मेरी जिंदगी ने हंस कर कहा, आज फिर जीने की तमन्ना है, आज फिर मरने का इरादा है। अजीब दास्तां है ये, कहाँ शुरू कहाँ खत्म, ये मंजिलें हैं कौन सी, न वो समझ सके न हम, अजीब दास्तां
So, ladies and gentlemen, there you are. That's a glimpse of what you're going to be seeing on tomorrow night in the Music Junction. But right now, we'll have to say goodbye from this segment. Before we do that, we will just take a very quick look at functions and events happening here in Brisbane. And then at 10 a.m., we'll have Akash Lodhia joining us live in these studios. Ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have for you in this weekend edition news segment. And at 10 a.m. Brisbane time, we will have Akash Lodhia coming to talk to us about Pankaj and his upcoming event. So we look forward to seeing you then. And don't forget that tomorrow, 6 p.m., we have the Music Junction for March. And it is a tribute to Lataji by our own Nightingale, Usha Sivakula, right here live from these studios. Until then, it's goodbye.